What do you think, Celine? Ready to start off 2019? Yeah, I know. I hate January too. Well, anywho, welcome back everybody. Hope you had a wonderful holiday, and here's to a fulfilling 2019. So the next couple of videos are going to be on games that I wanted to play last year, but for one reason or another, I couldn't find the time. Today we're going to be looking at Celeste, a game released almost a year from the time of this video's upload, so happy almost anniversary, Celeste. This one I heard solely from word of mouth. All my friends were playing it and shared their experiences on social media and what have you, and I figured I was going to give it a go at some point, so I deliberately decided not to follow up on what all my friends thought because, I didn't want my experience sullied. I didn't even partake in the brain scratch commentary for that very reason. This year, during my holiday trip to Pittsburgh for the new year, something I've been doing for several years now, I decided that the game I was going to play during the 7-hour train ride was going to be Celeste. For the record, the version I'm playing is the PC version on Steam, but it's also available on Linux, Macs, and current consoles. But before I continue any further, I feel the need to warn you about upcoming spoilers. Without giving out too much beforehand, a big thing about Celeste is how it integrates its story and themes into the gameplay. You can't talk about one without discussing the other. I mean, I think I could, but then I also think I'd be giving a shallow viewpoint. So if you're even remotely thinking about getting it, then, go ahead and do it. Go buy it, go play it for yourself, and come back later if you want. I'd rather not be the guy that ruined the experience for you. That said, if you're still here, then, let's jump into Celeste and see what I've been missing. Celeste was developed by indie studio Matt Makes Games, which despite the name was created by two people, Matt Thorson and Noel Berry. As for Mr. Thorson, I think this would be his second commercial title, as he was also responsible for Towerfall in 2013, a multiplayer combat arena game that I imagine would be pretty fun to play with friends, and from what I hear makes a pretty charming party game. Might play it sometime, we'll see. For Mr. Berry, I guess Celeste could be considered his first commercial game, although the dude has created a healthy selection of free-to-play games that you can still find on his personal website. One of these games, called Skytorn, likely to be his next commercial release, was just recently cancelled after failing to find a creative direction for it, and that's gotta suck, but who knows, maybe in time something will come out of it. Sometimes all you need to do is step away for a bit before, something clicks. So here we go. Celeste centers on the endeavors of this woman named Madeline as she begins to climb the mysterious mountain named, Celeste. But who is Madeline? What's her story, and why does she insist on climbing the mountain? Well, that much isn't very clear at first. We're just sort of thrown into her life. Initially, she's just an adorable yet snarky as hell person that yearns to climb the mountain with nothing but a coat and a backpack. Like, she doesn't even have a hat for this trip. I guess Canadians are really tough. But as you proceed, you start to learn more about Madeline and what she's actually doing here, and this is something I really want to commend the development team for. Although it's a little ambiguous at first, mainly concerning Madeline's past and her reasoning for climbing the mountain at all, it becomes very clear soon after on what's happening here. Madeline suffers from anxiety and depression. She's prone to panic attacks. She's good at hiding her emotional struggles, putting on a positive facade so that nobody suspects anything. She's a bit reclusive, but has no problems helping folks out when asked. Goddamn, this is probably one of the most relatable protagonists I've seen in a long time. As someone who's been there, shit, sometimes I'm like that even today, to be completely real with you guys. That hopelessness, that feeling that you're going nowhere, that you're up a creek with no paddle, that makes you think things are worse than they are, that makes you isolate yourself from your friends and family for a time, and how that makes you think that everyone doesn't like you. I understand that sort of thing big time, and as such, I completely get where Madeline comes from here. That moment when, after dealing with a mental episode where she takes the time to call her mom to catch up and put herself at ease, oh man, that hit me. That alone was enough to hook me for the rest of the adventure, and I wasn't sure what kind of shenanigans I was getting into yet. And they could have easily made this overly pretentious, where the story and themes are not so cut and dry and it's largely up to interpretation. Not saying that can't work, but most of the time, for me at least, I find that kind of philosophy to come at the cost of coherent storytelling. It's the reason why I didn't enjoy Braid's attempt at a story. Madeline's true reasoning for climbing the mountain is perhaps the only ambiguous thing in this story, but if you were to ask me, I think it's because she's looking for a purpose, looking for a challenge that'll help her keep her distracted, to keep her mind off things. Personally, I think all she needs is a good RPG for that, and climbing a mountain is a bit overkill, but hey, we all have our own ways of coping. Really, I feel that's what Celeste is all about. It's not just about climbing a mountain, but about Madeline's journey of self-reflection and her attempt to make something out of herself, which becomes quite literal as we continue. Celeste is said to be a mountain with magical properties, one that challenges a person's body and mind. If this cackling old lady didn't make that obvious enough, I don't know what to tell you. Not long after beginning her climb, a dark version of Madeline, known as Madeline, appears to give our heroine a bit of trouble. As it turns out, this doppelganger is really just Madeline's worst traits and insecurities made manifest. But that doesn't make her evil per se, as we find out. This Madeline is just as much of Madeline as Madeline, but she is something Madeline must learn to manage and accept if she wants to climb the mountain and better herself from within. and she's got her work cut out for her. Celeste as a game is damn hard. In fact, one of the fastest ways I can describe Celeste to someone is Super Meat Boy with an air dash in the story, to put it very shortly, but that's not one-to-one accurate, I'm aware. And personally, I didn't find Celeste to be as teeth-grindingly difficult as Meat Boy, but the fact of the matter is you're gonna die a lot. But that's okay, you're meant to. In fact, the game insists that you be proud of your death count. It shows that you're learning. And I gotta say, that's refreshing. I'm glad the developers decided not to be condescending twats about that. It encourages me to keep going. Though I was already hell-bent on proceeding because I was interested in seeing more of Madeline's journey, given how relatable I found her. The choice to make the game challenging, I feel, emphasizes Madeline's inner struggles. I mean, yeah, that's what Battlin's there for too, but this is gameplay and story integration done right, while at the same time being pretty damn fun. Every level has its own gimmick to keep you on your toes, keeping the challenge varied and making every stage feel unique. Control is top-notch and responsive, and you have this air dash that's not only satisfying to use to progress, but it's also useful for correcting a misaimed jump, something that will no doubt happen. You have infinite lives and every screen comes with a checkpoint, so you lose next to no progression should you happen to die again for the 100th time. Celeste sort of has an unbalanced delivery of exposition though. Cutscenes are usually about 1 to 2 minutes long, but right before the reflection level, they dump a whole bunch of dialogue at once, even more so if you ask the right questions and unlock more options for this dialogue tree. And normally this would bother me because I always feel there's a way to tell a story without having to stop for an overly long time, especially in a 2D platformer if you recall my problems with Freedom Planet story mode. But I'm so captivated to learn more about Madeline that I welcome the added details. It also serves to flesh out Theo, a wanderer you meet early in the adventure that doesn't seem to have too much purpose in life, but is hoping that the mountain gives him some answers and is glad to help out Madeline because, well, he's a nice guy like that. While everyone here has a degree of snarkiness to them, Celeste's narrative ends up being quite wholesome. I feel it really highlights that for those that are in Madeline's shoes, it's never as bad as your mind might think it is, and that sometimes all you gotta do is just open up and let your friends in. It can make a total difference. It's actually quite a feelsy journey, but for a mountain climb, I didn't think they would come up with 8 different areas to explore, but they managed it. Although the core area is entirely optional and just for the extra challenge. The temperature switching was a neat gimmick to tackle. The sequences where you had to switch between the two on the fly was intense, but satisfying to complete. I'd say my favorites were the Celestial Resort and Reflection. For Celestial Resort, you got a whole bunch of this dark-looking, massive something, but at some points it grows from your previous position, forcing you to think of an optimal route to proceed or how to get back to the entrance while keeping enough safe space to get by. Completing these were some of the most rewarding challenges in normal play for me. The Reflection level has these air boosters that don't last forever but are so cool to utilize in the middle of a long chain of jumps. The sense of flow is amazing here and is also rocking some pretty psychedelic colors and has one hell of a boss fight. I'm a little conflicted though with how I feel about the game's looks. I love the environments, the soundtrack is amazing, and I dig the animated character portraits. I especially like how Madeline jumps out of hers to really highlight that standard rules don't exactly apply to her, but the pixel quality on the actual character sprites, I feel they're a little too simple. They're quite small, they got no faces. I think with a bigger team and more time, it would have been better with a cleaner, more detailed look, something like Enchante Half Genie Hero. Highly subjective, I know. It's not bad as it is, but I personally wanted to see something with more expression. I think the Mirror Temple is my only real sour note. Okay, the more I think about it, the clouds in Chapter 4 also suck. The timing to get maximum height is so finicky. Like, I'm not sure if I should let go of the jump at the apex or when the cloud's rising. It seems like it's both at times. These added about 20 deaths to the count on their own, but to go back to the Mirror Temple, it looks cool, has its share of fun gameplay elements, but even with all that, it's just too long. You got the areas with these orb launchers fumbling through dark passageways looking for keys, and then you got the whole nightmare sequence. It's not repetitive, but a little long in the tooth. Easily the biggest level in the game, whether you go for all the extra stuff or not. But let's talk about that for a second. If you're just going through the motions, you can be Celeste in about 6 hours, give or take. But if you feel you aren't being challenged enough for whatever reason, Celeste has plenty of ways to keep you occupied. Throughout every stage, you can find these strawberries that require you to complete a tougher than normal task. It could be getting through a room with an ass load of stage hazards, or getting through a room without using the air dash. Strawberries are completely optional, and I'm really for bragging rights. At first, I didn't buy that when the game told me as such. I was thinking, nah, come on, there's probably a super hard level I unlock by getting all of them, but no, they're just there for you to collect. Okay, the amount you get slightly affects the ending image, but the ending itself doesn't change. So tell your friends when you manage to collect them all. On top of those, there's also the B-side cassettes. Collect these and you unlock a level's B-side, a much harder version of the stage that comes with a separate death count for one thing, and is sure to cramp your fingers like a motherfucker. I didn't complete all these for this video, but I found myself finishing more than needed because I got so caught up in trying to finish the ones I started. I lose track of myself all the time because of that kind of shit, which I attribute to the game's challenging allure. You get these cool looking red hearts for finishing them, along with a lawyer-friendly sound cue from THX. For the completionists inside you, there's also these crystal hearts. These are easily the most obscure thing to collect. The solutions to nabbing these can be convoluted. I sure hope you played Super Mario Bros. 3 to get one of them. That's all I'll say about this one. I managed to find a good chunk of them on my own. You need about 4 if you want to access the core. But for some, man, I don't know. Like, I would have never thought to get this one without using a guide. But again, none of these are required to beat the game. They're just here to fill up the time and for achievements. What Celeste offers in normal play, story, and sound is more than enough to justify its $15 price tag. It's tough as shit, and yet an oddly calming experience at the same time. Now that's a combination you don't hear much of. Madeline and her journey, both physically and mentally, makes her one of the most relatable protagonists I've seen in a long ass time in a game, and it's amazing how much that drove me to continue playing. I was already having fun, but this added another layer that made the entire package more fulfilling. And yeah, I mean, what else to say? This is good. You should play this one, and I'm disappointed that I didn't jump in this earlier. With that said, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night, and take care. Look at this. What is this? New end screen shenanigans. Hey everybody, I figured 2019 can use some brand new assets, but as always, you can find links to the previous review as well as a playlist of all my other Johnny Versus videos right then and there. I'll catch you guys in the next video. I promise it won't take as long to come out as this video did. Starting 2019 right, god damn it, and I'm gonna make sure it happens.